Hey everyone, Switch Double here. This is a fair video about the trio, which I call for Tyrek, Kozaglo, and Chrysalis. This is gonna be a scenarios about how or if the trio were released by from the stone prison in the G5 timeline. Since the trio was put in the stone statue prison by Celestia, Luna, and Discord, even though we know that Discord spent 1,000 years as a stone statue in a castle garden, but assuming in that when the magic was gone in the G5 timeline, how would it affect the stone statue prison for the trio? Well, this is one scenario that I speculate that could happen. Let's focus on it. Since the magic was gone in G5 timeline, and assuming the magic that was binding the trio in the stone prison was somehow vanished, and they were released in the stone prison from the stone prison, and they realized something has happened. But even they were not exactly aware has been going on for the past 100 years, assuming it has been 1 century. But after they have been released from the stone prison, they will be disorientated, dizzy, and of course try to figure out exactly what happened. And the last that they remember that they were turned into stone by the royal sisters in Discord. But being unaware that it has been over 100 years since they were put into stone. So they started wondering what's exactly been happening and why they were suddenly released from the stone prison. But as Kusuglo started flying, but she was unable to be flying around, and she started wondering why she was not unable to fly. And even though that Tirak or Chrysalis may explain have a suitable explanation, after she has been spent some time as a stone statue for uncertain time, it is likely that her wings hasn't even been used for some time. May explain why she has been unable to be flying around. Even though Kosoglo might be angry why she can't be able to fly, but she both had accepted the possibility that spending some time in the stone statue and that her wings had been stoned has been not been moving for some time. Would that something that she would explore would accept it as a possibility? But as them, they will have no idea what else has been going on. And even though they probably won't hasn't been aware, they have been put in stone for over 100 years. To them, it could have been like a year, 2 years, maybe 1,000 years, but they are not even aware exactly how much time they spent as a stone statue. But as they're looking around, seeing no ponies around, so they starting to wondering what will they should do next. After they have gathered their thoughts and start asking themselves, what will they do next? They had to hide somewhere because if some pony finds out they had escaped the stone prison, Twilight and maybe the others may use the elements against them again to put them into stone. But since there aren't no ponies around, they started wondering, maybe there aren't any ponies to be wondering, not being worrying that were being able to escape. But as they also figure out what happened and how they were able to escape is probably some of their things on their mind. But the first order to do is to escape, to run away somewhere so they can hide and lay low and gather thoughts and maybe figure out exactly why they had escaped from the stone prison. Since they both know, and all of them know, that Discord spent 1,000 years in stone prison. And the only ones who have been able to release from someone is from stone prison is the elements of harmony or the royal sisters them together. So since none of them were even close in the vicinity where they were released from the stone prison, so they can immediately roll out Celestial Luna and the main six for has been doing it. So who could have done it? Could have been Grugar, but it is unlikely, since they all know that the Grugar these were working for was actually Discord in disguise, and they also know that Discord would unlikely do anything to help them from Stone Prison once again. So, as they start wondering who or why they were released from the Stone Prison, is what the thoughts in their mind. But as another thing as going from Kosovo, even though they may have been one day since they escaped from the Stone Prison, she's still unaware or at least unable to fly. She tries and tries and tries, but Dan is unable. But as they were wandering around to find some solutions and maybe find some answers, they came across maybe Bridlewood near, at least near the end. And then since they discovered there's a unicorn in the distance, Tirek, who is in his weakened state, wants to be strong again, approached this unicorn, tried to steal its magic, but somehow finds it is impossible. Finds it impossible to drain the magic from the unicorn, since the unicorn doesn't even have any magic. So he releases Unicorn, who escapes back, running back in the forest. And though that, even though Chrysalis may have an explanation also for this, that since Tirak has spent some unknown time as a stone statue, like Kosiglo, that maybe this has been affected his ability to train magic from ponies. Even though Tirak may explain that doesn't even make no sense. But even so, that made the only explanation why Tirak was unable to train any magic from the pony that he came across. But as they came across maybe a few other unicorns in the distance, tried to use the same technique to train the magic from them. But as they repeat the same pattern, nothing worked. As they were unable to train the magic from them, as they didn't have any magic, as they also ran away, leaving both Kosiglo, Tirak, and even Chrysalis still puzzled. Why were they unable to train any magic from the ponies? Tirak may start getting frustrated. Why is he unable to train the magic from the ponies that he wants to? He's the desire to insert magic to be strong again, but unable to train the magic from a single pony, which makes him very much frustrated. And the same thing as for Kozuko. And since she's still, after just 1 or 2 days after they escaped, unable to even fly for a single, not even inch from the ground, she started wondering, maybe there was something that affected her flying, and also at the same time affecting character being trained in the magic. Both the birds started arguing and debating, maybe this Stone Princess may have done something to them that they were unable to use their things they loved the most. For example, then Terek loved the most is to drain the magic from ponies. But, and since Kozaglo loves to fly, since she should pay aside, but something on the Stone Princess had affected them to do so. But then Tirak remembers, since Chrysalis is a changeling, she can transform to almost anything. And since a changeling's magic is completely different magic based on the ponies and others, so they ask her if she can transform to something else. Maybe if they can, if Chrysalis can try transform into Kozuko, for an example, and if the Chrysalis is able to do so, both Koziglo, and Terran start to ask themselves, so if Chrysalis is able to transform by using her own magic, so why isn't Koziglo unable to fly, Terran unable to drain the magic from ponies? They're debating about this. Maybe something has affected just them, but not Chrysalis. And they maybe start asking her, demanding an answers, what did she do to them? But even the Chrysalis may have an explanation herself. Maybe this magic in the Stone Prison only affects certain type of species, and maybe some certain type of magic that those creatures possess. Maybe that Changeling's magic is immune, because that magic is completely different based on the pony magic. And even though that she has a point, But even though that argument, Tirek may not even take that as much as a good explanation. And of course, they may still be argued back and forth. Why is Ian unable to drain magic from simple ponies? And then he came from the idea. What if he tries to drain some magic from Chrysalis? Even though she hesitated not to even allow it. But if Cozy Glow makes some sort of a deal, if he's try to drain some magic from her but give it back to her as proving, even if that maybe this Stone Prince in magic had affected Tirek, that he can no longer drain magic from ponies anymore, and that he has to focus on the magic from other creatures like changelings. Even though that Chrysalis is still not very much happy about this idea, but maybe that she would reluctantly agree, but only as a test. But since Tirek tries and tries over and over to steal, not steal, but trying to drain some magic from Chrysalis, but is unable. Maybe this has been aware. Maybe there's something else about this. They still may argue about why can I steal the magic from you? Or why can I drain magic from ponies? Even though that, and Koziglo's like, if they are unable to use magic, and why am I unable to fly? And they may be all asking, why would the ponies that we encounter had any magic? In Tirek's mind, this wouldn't make no sense, because across the time before he was put in Stone Prison, even when he had Tirek and the Discord to help him, he was able to drain magic from any kind. Earth Pony, Unicorn, Pegasi, and even Alicorn. You name it. But he's unable then. Now he's unable to drain any simple magic spell or any magic from a simple unicorn. Or even Chrysalis of all. So why would that happen? Well, in this scenario, they might be still arguing about this. But since they're still near Bridalwood, or at least in the forest area, Coastglow may come up with some sort of cover story. What about if Chrysalis change into unicorn, sneaks into the forest, tries to figure out to find any unicorn settlement or even out the unicorns, asking them about how their magic training been going, and maybe try to figure out exactly some details. Maybe some answers why the magic aren't even working. Even though Tirek may say that sounds maybe a solution to be that they could be doing. Even though Chrysalis herself may not be reluctant to do so. But Closaglow said from this, if there are more ponies out there, maybe there are, you may can maybe steal a lot for them to get stronger. Even though that would not be much and argue against Chrysalis, she wouldn't even argue against that idea. I mean, she said, if there are other ponies in this forest, maybe a small town or something, maybe they are full of love, you can still demand that love from them, but also at the same time get answers why they were unable to use magic or even flying. Chrysalis may agree to do so and transform into a unicorn, and she tells them to wait there and she will be back soon enough. And even though this might sound an arguable answer to this scenario, why that could happen, but let's zooming more further in this, assuming this fair scenario. As the Chrysalis approaching Bridalwood, she encounters several other unicorns, discovered that most of them are very depressed, and she somehow can sense there are no much happiness or love in the area, in the air. So she will start wondering, maybe then she is unable to drain any love from the ponies. But she tried to act as casually, asking some opponents in town why they're how their practice being match is going, and even though some of them are doing this performance of this taboo word magic. But but as she figured out some other opponents that explained to her, they asked her maybe that she isn't from town, and she explained no, she is from a different place. And she had asked if they. She explains that where she's from, no ponies has been using any magic for a long time. And she asked if they had, since this is the only other town of unicorns she had came across, and she was just wondering if they had possessed any training or magic. And some of the unicorns may explain there are no any ponies in this town can ever even do simple spell. And maybe also find out the reason. It's because one day the magic was just gone. Just poof, vanished without a trace. And there was no answers for what. And if she even figured out asking why there is no earth ponies or even Pegasi in this town. And some of the unicorns may explain that since the magic disappeared, none of the unicorns, earth ponies, or Pegasi never been friends anymore. Because that point event make them all separately. And also they would also figure out that since the magic disappeared, none of the Pegasi are unable to fly. That is a good crucial answer for even for Chrysalis that she will would rely on to Kozaglow when she returns. And after they got some of the information that she had, she thanked them and went back to trader Tirek and Kozaglow, who was really waiting patiently, were really unexpectedly waiting for answers. Even they were eager and very getting annoyed of being waiting such long, but as they have been waiting for so long answers. But as since they have been waiting so long for any answers from their questions, but now they won't be able to give the answers. As Kozaglow Tirek noticed that Chrysalis is back, they ask her, well, what do you learn? What do you find out? They all ask. Kozaglow were to be told that there are no magic anymore. That's the reason why you aren't able to fly. According to some of the unicorns that I came across, no Pegasi can fly anymore. And what about the magic? Actually, will ask. It turns out since the magic disappeared, no single unicorn has been able to use a spell ever since. And that's the reason why you are unable to drain the magic from them. Even though the Tirek may not take that answer as acceptable. But to Kozaglow, this would make sense. Since that her dream, or that she was unable to fly, and since there were no other explanations, and only that one that Chrysalis came back with from Brotherhood. But even at first, Chrysalis was the only one of the two trio that can actually still use magic on her own base. So, even when Tirek finds out that he's unable to drain any magic from any unicorn, earth pony, or Pegasi, or even alicorn, but he also asks, who is the ruler of the Equestria in this current state? And about at least for Chrysalis may find out there aren't any single ruler anymore. There aren't any such so-called alicorn, or at least what she was found out, but was able to find out as an answer from. So both Chrysalis, Tirek, and Kozaglow are really surprised. They have been gone for so long, and at me had also figured they have been gone for over a century, and there are no single ruler, the magic is gone, no Pegasi can fly. So they start wondering, especially for this time for Tirek, what will he do now? Without the magic, he will never be strong as he was before. And Kozaglow, without the magic, she won't be able to fly. So she started wondering, what will she do? As this trio started wondering themselves, what will they do now? Tirek has no answers for himself, and since they had started been arguing earlier, what can cause the magic to disappear? But now they were clueless what to do next. All their efforts, all their talk, and after this major discovery had changed all things for them. Knowing that Chrysalis is the only one that can still use magic, well, it's based on all kind. And since Kozaglow can't fly anymore, Tirek is unable to drain magic from the rest of the kind, any ponies, since there are no magic anymore. So what will happen to them? Will they still remain as a team, working together? But working for what? There are no magic anymore, at least for Kozaglow. for her, not her case that she wants to fly. Tira can't drain magic anymore. And only the trio this can be used magic is Chrysalis. They started wondering what they should, if they should still be as a team working together. But for what goal? Without the magic out there aren't any much of a goal for T-Rex to be even going on. So, assuming after this scenario, finding out that for some reason that the magic is gone, poof, vanished for some sort of unexplained reason, and that would reason why that Kozuglo cannot fly, and that T-Rex is unable to train magic from the ponies. But there's still a major question to them all to be asked though. How was the being released from the stone statue? Kozuglo may had an explanation, and they all both listened. Since the magic disappeared, she would explain. Maybe if the magic disappeared, maybe the magic that bind us in a stone statue all those years ago somehow was disappeared around the same time. But since there was strong enough magic in the statue to keep us here as for maybe some more time until the magic in the stone statues became so weak and that was unable to keep us in it a little longer, and that's the reason why we were able to escape. That may not be the only explanation that Kozuglo could even come up with. And even though the T-Rex said that sounds a little bit far stretched if you ask me. Even Chrysalis may say, that is something I agree with. And Kozuglo will say, well, do you have any other explanations why suddenly our stone statue was released that we were able to escape from it? And and if you remember, this core was in stone statue for over 1,000 years, but Chrysalis and T-Rex both say the same thing. Well, the word still magic in the question then. How will you explain that? And the Kozuglo makes still a good statement. Well, since there were magic still in Equestria back then, why would it be any now? If the magic was still around even at this moment, we would still be in Stone Prison. But since the magic disappeared, vanished, the magic in the stone statue was even strong enough to keep us in there for some more time until it became so weakened that it allowed us to be escaped. Even though T-Rex Chrysalis may think about this idea, and they figure out maybe that Kozuglo has a point. Thinking about it. Since this sculpted the stone statue for 1,000 years, but there was still magic from that point onwards and even after it. So it explains. If the stone statue or is the magic around the world was gone, and the stone statue only has still has some magic still possessing it. But as time went on, the magic within the stone statue became weakened. That would explain some of the reason why the stone statue just released them. That was why they were able to escape. So even if they were then, they had now at least some answers why they were able to escape, and why there are no magic, and why Jack was unable to drain magic, and for why Kozuglo was unable to fly. But what's another main question to be asked? What will they do now? Chrysalis may have still her changing magic. She will be able to fly around or use or transform her magic from others. But still at the same time, she may still be able to drain magic love from other ponies. But even so, there is a lot of things that why Chrysalis, T-Rex, and Kozuglo shouldn't start working as a team again. But since there were no magic, there were no reason for them to continue to work together as a team and try to take over the question. Because without the magic, in this for the disadvantage for T-Rex, without the magic, he wouldn't been able to be super strong that he was able to be defeating any single unit pony at ease. But even his weakened state without the magic, he's defenseless. He is easily overpowered. Kozuglo, without her magic to be able to fly, she would easily be defeated. but the only one in the team who still had magic would be Chrysalis, and she still would be easily to be leading the team. But what will happen, or at least what would happen after this though? Well, knowing the scenario what I just explained, I believe it may explain the second part of the scenario as what next. After the first conclusion, after how the trio could have escaped the statue prison and what went through their minds afterwards. After that the trio have learned there are no magic anymore in Equestria. This was a very devastating news towards their most two members, Koziglo and Tirek. Mostly for Tirek, because he wanted to steal magic to be powerful again. But without that, the magic it had just vanished. He had no idea what to do otherwise. And even for Koziglo, knowing that now that there aren't any magic, she can't fly anymore. Even though that Chrysalis still has her own magic, she basically could live her own as basic, not as normal. But what would it mean as for Tirek and Koziglo? Even though that now that Tirek can't even be able to train any simple magic from either earth ponies, unicorns, or even Pegasi, there aren't any reason for him to remain in Equestria. But what will he do now? Without the ability to drain the magic from others, ponies, and all. And even especially Koziglo. She can still remain in Equestria as normal. But there is also a smaller problem that she had learned from that information that Chrysalis gave her team, or the group. That Koziglo, she will not be able to walk into any Earth Pony town or even a Unicorn town because it will only cause her problem. Since the three pony kinds hate each other, they feared each other. So it was unlikely that she would even just walk into a smaller Earth Pony town or even a Unicorn town, because it would only draw attention towards her immediately. So she would not even risk that to jeopardize her own life. But what would happen to the other members? What would Tirek do? Knowing that he isn't able to drain any magic from the unicorns or basically any ponies at all. And even though he's still in his weakened form or weakened state, unable to drain magic from basically any pony, and he had no idea what to do. And even that he could still remain in Equestria, but without and unable to drain the magic that he wants to be strong and powerful, without that. To him, it seems no purpose for him to stay and remain in Equestria. So, in his mind, there is a possibility that he thinks, since there are no reason for him to stay in Equestria, without the magic, he has no purpose to be. There was no purpose for him to stay there. Knowing that without the magic, he will never be the strong and powerful warrior centaur that he used to be before. And knowing now there are no magic, there are no reason for him to remain there. So there's a more likely possibility that this trio will split entirely. It's more likely that even even though that Tirek could stay in Equestria, but what will he do? It is very unlikely that he just walk into a normal Earth Pony or Unicorn town, because that will only draw attention towards him. But even though they might be able to overpower him easily in his weakened state, but knowing that he still had no purpose left behind, without the magic that he wanted, the mostly desired, there's no reason for him to stay behind in Equestria. So it's more likely that he will return back to his original homeland. And even if he did return to his original homeland, it is likely that Scorpion's descendants is ruling his homeland. Even though he had been away for 1,000 years plus 100 in that he spent in a stone statue prison. So been away for 1,100 years. A lot of things can have changed over that course of millennia. A lot of things can change, but they're most likely that he would just go back to his original homeland. Because without the magic that he desired so most of all, it's pointless to remain in one land that there is no magic to absorb. If Equestria still had the magic, it wouldn't be no then he had to or just then he could have remained in Equestria to drain the magic from every pony that he encountered. But without the magic just poof, gone. There were no means for him to stay behind in Equestria without the magic. After all, since the magic is what he desired most, because he wants to be powerful, strong centaur, as everyone says before. But without the magic, it was pointless for him to stay behind. So what will he do? Well, that is the reason I really don't know much. But if I almost speculate that if he returns home, learning that his younger brother's descendants had been ruling in his homeland for a long time, even though that they probably recognized him from paintings in the castle, that he used to be their ancestors' older brother, that he's a family member, they may be welcomed back with open arms. Even though that this has been over 1,000 years plus 100, so 1100 years have passed. Even this has been 1100 years, his family may still be welcome him back with open arms, even though may be a little bit cautious about him. After hearing stories about Tirek being mad, mad for power, magic, but after realizing that there are no magic in Equestria that he's more desired to most, and that he just shows and that's why he chose to return home. Even learning that his younger brother had passed centuries ago, but his descendants had kept ruling the land with peace and honor. Even this might be a little bit shocking for his older brother to return, to try to adjust to this new life as peacefully. So exactly what Tirek would do when he returned back home, that I don't know. But it most likely that he could perhaps remain in the castle, trying to redeem themselves from the past mistakes, which might possibility to do so. But even after that he returned back home, maybe he not decides to be something else with his life, to do something else. But his strength that he has, maybe it's something to do something. It is possible that he may even settle down after returning back home, start a family of their own, but that is just a speculation though. But this is what I believe that Tirek would do. That he will probably be more likely to return back home after what happened. After the loss of the magic, and then this without the magic in Equestria, it didn't serve him any purpose. It didn't serve him purpose to remain in Equestria because he really wanted to just absorb all the magic in Equestria to be powerful, strong again. But without the magic, it didn't serve the purpose for him just to stay there. Sure, he could have stayed behind in Equestria, but what will that gain for him? Without the magic, he wouldn't have been able to just do anything. He probably would be an hermit, live by himself somewhere alone. So, more likely that Tirek would have returned back home to his homeland. But then, let's focus about the other two members of the trio, Cosaglo and Chrysalis. Since Chrysalis is the only one of the trio that still has her own magic, which she can shapeshift to almost anything. But even after that, Tirek had decided to go back to his original homeland, after since there was magic in Equestria that he could absorb. But what would Chrysalis do? Knowing that her kingdom is no longer most likely still under the ruling of descendants of King Thorax. But even if that's a possibility, she still had a few options that she could be doing. She could still traveling around in Equestria, stealing the love from that other ponies by in disguise as a pony. But that was not doing much for her though. But so if she had made the decide to go back to Changing Kingdom, hoping maybe that she could find a way to take over the kingdom as the rightful ruler. But there are still a few options that, or even some things that may go against that. Since back when Thorax was the first to be reformed, and that he managed to convince the entire changeling species to be as reformed. Ever since then, they became friends with the ponykind and most others. In a mere perspective, which probably served as a better future for changelings. But knowing that her changing kingdom is now under the ruling of Forex descendants, most likely. So if she goes back to her original homeland, or her original kingdom, seeing how it's been different, because under her ruling, the entire kingdom was a barren wasteland. But under the ruling and guidance of Kor Thorax and his future descendants, the whole landscape had been a green scenery landscape again. But even if she managed to go back to the kingdom, she's probably worried how the changelings react to seeing one unchanged changeling. But knowing, even if she managed to go back there is a small chance that she not been able to convince the changelings to let her be the next ruler. She may try to give the play the cards that she is the rightful ruler of the kingdom, not King Thorax's future descendants, which she would claim as pretenders, not the rightful rulers, that they stole the throne from her. But if the changelings in the kingdom is all aware who Chrysalis is and what her bad mistakes were in the past, so it is unlikely that she will be able to gather any followers of the changelings to try to corrupt them and take over the kingdom once again. In my opinion and my speculation on this scenario, that it is very much unlikely that Chrysalis will be able to gather any followers when she returns. Because if she do return and see how the other changelings are almost had been colorful, she will immediately be spotted to be unreformed, unredeemed changeling. So, in my opinion and my beliefs, it is unlikely that she would just could just walk in without being spotted. But as with her shapeshifting ability, she can transform maybe to a bird, to maybe a rat or a small creature, small animal, and sneaks in and observe the changes society has been evolved for the past 100 years. Seeing from one distance, seeing if there's a possibility on any ways for her to just go back there, reclaim the throne as was taken from her. In her opinion, that's was they in her opinion, or at least in her belief, the right of the ruling was taken from her in a small coup against with help of Discord, Chrysalis, like Trixie, Starlight, and Forex. But even if that was not the case, because seeing how happy the changelings are, knowing that they embrace friendship and love, not stealing it, they are willing to share the love with others. So even if the chrysalis may just go back there, what will it serve her? What did serve her for purpose? Try to take over the kingdom. It will only damage her even more and any of the others. Because if she goes back, try to take over, she will not even have any of the followers of any of the changelings that to even follow her. They probably try to convince her to embrace friendship rather than stealing magic of the love from others. But even if that some of this might be true, there's still so many possibilities that could happen. Two of the main possibilities that I can even consider is that Chrysalis returns back to the kingdom, finding it how flourished the kingdom is, how peaceful it is, how the changelings is so colorful, and they instead of stealing the love from others, they embrace and share it rather than stealing it. Instead, even if she had a possibility, first option is to realize her bad mistakes and knowing there is no chance for her to even try to corrupt any of the changelings, and even to try to take over the kingdom again. Knowing it would be entirely possibility for any of the changelings there to follow her, and even there is a strong, most likely chance that they all is aware who Chrysalis is and also what she had been done or what she has done in the past. So if they did that, they came across her and takes her to the current ruler, maybe the king or queen of descendant of Thorax, to at least offer her the chance to be reformed, to embrace love, friendship. Even though that even though that Chrysalis might just not very much even considering it, still trying to reject the offer to be reformed. But seeing how much the happiness the entire kingdom has, so much friendship there is, so much love, and much so kindness, they are willing to do anything. Seeing how prospered the kingdom has been without guidance for over 100 years, seeing how well they are, and seeing how developed the society has been over the past century. So there is possibility that she may just realize there is no way for her to try to corrupt any of the changes, and that she will embrace friendship and love, and even and maybe be overwhelmed that the love that the current king or queen and other changelings are willing to share the love with her. If they make that offer, make that as a deal, sharing the love with her, and feeling this shared love, it makes her maybe realize it's a bad mistake to even do anything. So it's likely that she could have been option take the first option to be reformed and became part of the new changing kingdom again. Even though she may not be the next queen or anything, but she could still use her knowledge that she had possessed to help this kingdom to grow even more. But if she had been taken the second option, which would mean which would mean that she didn't even go back to the kingdom, knowing that even back in if she's still in Equestria, knows that if she goes back to the kingdom, there is no way for her to maybe to try to take over the kingdom. And since she still have her own shape-shifting ability, she could still travel across an entire kingdom, or Equestria, steal the love from Polonais as under disguise in order to then survive. Maybe try to go somewhere else to form a new kingdom of changelings. That is the second option that more likely could also happen. But in my belief and opinion, the first option be more likely to be happened. That she goes back to the changing kingdom. Even the first in her mind planning to try to take over. But since after she's been offered and shared the love from the other changelings willingly, she may accept the friendship and love and became reformed. That is what I believe will happen to Chrysalis. But now let's focus on the third and last member of the trio, Kosovo. With the trio being split up, Tirek returned home to his original homeland. Chrysalis go back to the kingdom, became reformed. What about Kosovo? Even though despite she is a regular Pegasite, she would survive her own, but even though she's a child, even she would be like 112 years old biologically though. But after hearing the stories about an entire kingdom of Pegasi under the name of Zephyr Heights, after that Chrysalis could have shared the information where Zephyr Heights is located, maybe Coaster Glow decides to go back, maybe travel and stay there. But even though that she has no idea how to even get there, but when she finds that where this Pegasus city is located, she is very overwhelmed seeing how different Zephyr Heights had is compared to like Ponyville. And also, even though that she knows that there are no flying Pegasi anymore, or at least after since the magic disappeared, but there is one mind thing on her mind that she is worried about. What if the some of the Pegasi recognize her, and knowing that she is the very same Pegasi filly that tried to steal the magic from Equestria by using some magical artifacts? But since knowing that it has been over 100 years since she has been a stone present, or at least a stone statue, so it is likely that none of the Pegasi in Zephyr Heights has no idea who she is. So that would be an advantage for her. But since there are no magic in Equestria, and that she is unable to fly, so what would she be doing in Zephyr Heights? There is a few possibilities that she could be doing, even though that she may try to manipulate others again. But for what gain? Without the magic there in Equestria, and without the ability to fly, there's no chance for her to try to take over the kingdom again. Since she knows that is a king, that there is a queen and two princesses in of that separate heights. So unlikely that she would even try to take over the kingdom. But since she had been in a statue as for 100 years, and her family is long gone, so the other second option is just that she probably would try to figure out what to do next in her life with being away for such a long time, not knowing exactly what has been changed, but seeing how the society has been developed with television, screen, cell phones, computers, and cameras, and something like that. All this is completely unknown to her. And even if she will try to figure out exactly how to survive in this new modern time, even even after all this though, what will she do when she do return back its new lifestyle in the Zephyr Heights? Even there's no way for her to try to take over. But in my opinion, and my strongest belief, is that she might try to figure out what to do next. Maybe that she will try to find a way to some place to stay, and maybe try to find a job or something that so that she can earn some sort of income and have her own place. Knowing her plans in the past probably was a since none of the opponent PSI in Zephyr Heights is unlikely is aware who she is or about her past. So if no PSI is aware of it, which is, which might be a good start for her to start all over again. To start all over again. To maybe try to move on from her bad mistakes and that she realized that the realization that what she did in the past probably was the worst mistake ever in her life. And except for joining in the trio along with Chrysalis and Tirak under the guidance of Krogar, under which will later turns out to be Discord. But anyways, but in my opinion, the most strongest is that Chrysalis will try to find a way to make some sort of a living for herself in Zephyr Heights. But now knowing now there's new technology, cell phones, TV stations, TV screens, and and even social media, and she has no idea about how to be, has no knowledge how to even operate the cell phone or even what is the other things are. But since that she has been away for 100 years, could anyone blame her? In a sense, no reason for her to be aware how the technology being developed in the first place. But since since that no one in the Zephyr Heights is aware who she is in originally, so she can still by using her name and travel around on the Zephyr Heights system by normal. And of course, maybe then she probably finds some solution, maybe to be. But there's one thing that she really is good at. Not because not well not being manipulating, but the most of the good thing that she's good at is to be assistant. Since she used to be like assistant to Twilight back in School of Friendship over 100 years earlier, maybe then she can try to find a position as a work that she can work as some sort of assistant to maybe a teacher or maybe something else. So if she managed to find a position as assistant somewhere, maybe a small office, maybe that's a good thing as for her. So if she's showing how well good she is being as an assistant, that will mark her as a good start as a new mark as a mark of a new beginning for Kozuglo. Since now she has redeemed herself and tried to start all over again to work as an assistant for someone else and even eventually get a new job and a new life and eventually settle down in Equestria, except for Heights. So, in my opinion, Koziglo, despite her evil, manipulated nature, she still had the opportunity and the chance that she could redeem herself. And knowing that there aren't any other places she can go to, even if she would have gone back to Ponyville, there is no way to tell for sure if that even there aren't any ponies living there anymore, if it's just earth ponies, pegasi, or even unicorns. There is no way to say for certain though. Because if she would go back there and there are just earth ponies living in Ponyville, there is no way how her welcome there would be accepted. Maybe that they're fearing her as much as other places in Equestria. So they may just maybe be so much fear of her and she has chosen to leave Ponyville again. But living in a city of Zephyr Heights, which is just full of just Pegasi, which would give her a very much good sense of peace and justice. So even that she had redeemed herself and tried to move on, tried to make a new start for her life, find a good position as an assistant at some occupation, and eventually earn her enough money to buy her own place and still work as an assistant. Maybe she might even move up in a step later from an assistant to manager, maybe a boss of the company or what she just tried to find. So to proving herself to being as a good assistant, and next step maybe to be as a manager where where she was find as a good position as occupation. And eventually, who knows, there's more likely that she could have find a boyfriend and maybe get married and settle down, start a whole family. But it's likely that she would just move on, redeem herself, and realize there's no reason for any of that. So, in my opinion, in my strongest belief for this scenario, Kozilo will find a way to redeem herself and find a place in the new Zephyr Heights, redeem herself, find a good position as an assistant at some place, as an office maybe, and eventually settle down and start a family. But, and here is the part of when how everything will change. How would they react when the magic once again has been restored in Equestria after being away for some time? Well, for example, Tirak, after been living in his original homeland for some time, and even has at this point a family of his own, hearing stories about the magic had miraculously been restored in Equestria from some traveler from his homeland who had been there and back, telling stories that the magic had been restored. Would that be much an issue for Tirak though? don't believe so. After being happy living, settled down, and have his own family, and even have children, I don't believe that he wants to jeopardize, go back to the quest to steal the magic to be powerful again. After him learning to live peacefully with his own family and his homeland, I doubt that he would even go back to the quest to steal the magic. I think, in my opinion, that he had probably learned from the mistakes and he doesn't want to jeopardize his own family. Because learning, knowing that when he left his homeland with Scorpion over 1,000 years ago, in the first attempt to steal magic, Scorpion, in his opinion, betrayed him that he didn't want to steal the magic anymore, and that he went back home. So after that, he has been put in first the Taurus for 1,000 years, and later in a stone statue for 100 years. But after he had learned that since when he was released, knowing that the magic was gone, and there was no purpose for him to stay there in Equestria. So, in my opinion, that he doesn't even want to jeopardize his own family for this. But after he left, his relationship between his parents himself may have been so much damaged, and it would have taken him quite a while to even repair his relationship with his family, especially his father, who felt betrayed of his oldest son for doing so. So I don't believe that he want to do the same thing again to his own children. So even heard stories about the magic can't be restored. I don't believe that T-Rex will just go back in Equestria to steal it. But if there's a possibility that he would go to Equestria with his family to show them about this beautiful land, these ponies, maybe that could be much better as the best option. So that is what I believe his reaction would be. But I think more likely that he would also be very shocked and surprised that suddenly the magic is back again. And even though he probably will start to asking how the magic came back, and after hearing of a unicorn, an earth pony, who brought the tribes, the three pony kinds back again by using the friendship of magic to restore it. So in that my opinion, that is how my beliefs is how T-Rex reaction would be when the magic had been restored. How about Kozaglow and Chrysalis? Well, the Chrysalis, who has been living among her own kind, has been reformed and peacefully sharing the love that the others has been learning to. She might be still like T-Rex, surprised how the magic is restored. But happy living in such peaceful way for that most of her kind, I don't believe that she desired to just like go out there, steal the love and magic from the ponies again. But after her living within the kingdom peacefully and may even had her own family at this point. So I don't believe that she would even either want just to go back to her old ways again. I don't believe that she wants to jeopardize her friendship with the other some new changelings that she has formed, the bonds she had, and especially the family she may have started. So that is my belief and also her reaction that she will be shocked, surprised, but even most of all, amused that the ponies had the magic once again. But Koziglo, though, her reaction might be a bit different. After been living in the Zephyr Heights for some time, that and also not having flying around, has been having a good doing it well for her job as an assistant, and even have her own place. But after hearing and also suddenly one day seeing Pony Unit Pegasi in the higher Zephyr Heights flying around, and she started asking questions like, "How is this possible?" Because the other day there were no Pegasi that could fly, but today they can. So she probably had been asking, find out answers that some pony had restored the magic. But would that jeopardize her plea, the new future that she had formed in Equestria? In my opinion and beliefs, I don't even think so. After all, would she even would she even jeopardize the new life she had made for her? And who knows, maybe at this point she may even have made a good job as assistant, and even is so very close to be promoted to be as a manager and even have her own place and even a boyfriend. So I don't believe that she won't even jeopardize by throwing all that down to be as bad as her old bad past again. I don't believe so. So in my strongest opinion, her reaction will be like surprised, stunned that the magic has been gone for some while and now suddenly back again. But she may still be happy that now she can at least be flying around in the city, been moving from one place to town to different without walking, which would save her a lot of time. So this is all my reactions, or at least how her reaction would be when the magic being restored in Equestria. And also, everyone, this might have been the longest fair video I ever had done, but also much even more better detailed on what my belief and my opinion, my discussions, and my at least conclusion in my scenario, how the trio could have been released from the stone statue of prison and what will happen to after them and what they will do after. This is all I believe. So if anyone has their own opinion, thoughts, leave it in the comment section below. This is Swish Double, over and out.